Carlton Apartments sat on the corner of 4th and Lowry, like a bruised ribcage against the Seattle skyline. It was a pre-war brick beast, coughing steam from its vents and smelling perpetually of damp wool, floor wax, and the accumulated dust of 6 decades. I lived in Unit 4C. It was a box that felt more like a holding cell for my professional ambitions than a home. My name is Marcus, and I am a freelance technical editor. My life is measured in word counts, Chicago Manual of Style guidelines, and the rhythmic blinking of a cursor on a dual monitor setup. When you spend 16 hours a day staring at a screen, the world outside becomes a series of data points to be analyzed. I knew the exact frequency of the radiator's hiss. I knew that the elderly woman in 4A, Mrs. Gable, boiled cabbage every Thursday at 6 p.m. I knew that the floorboards in the hallway groaned specifically under the weight of the night shift janitor. I was a man of patterns. Until Unit 4B broke them. For 3 years, the apartment directly across the hall had been empty. The management claimed it was under renovation, though no contractors ever came and no power tools ever whirred. Then, on a rain-slicked Tuesday in November, she arrived. There was no moving truck, no chaotic clatter of furniture, no friends pivoting a couch around the stairwell corner. Just a woman in a charcoal trench coat carrying a single weathered leather satchel. She was Ilara. That was the name on the pristine white card slipped into the brass slot on her door. She was pale, not the sickly paleness of someone who avoids the sun, but the translucent, matte quality of a deep-sea creature or fine porcelain. Her hair was dark, cut in a sharp bob that framed a face which seemed to lack the minute imperfections that make a person look real. In the weeks that followed her arrival, I never saw her during the day. Not once. I worked from home, my desk facing the window that overlooked the street, and my ears tuned to the hallway. I never heard a morning shower. I never heard the microwave beep. I never saw her fetch mail. 4B was a tomb, and Ilara was its silent warden. My obsession began as a mild curiosity, the kind that naturally arises when you live in close quarters with strangers, but it metastasized into something darker on a Thursday. I was battling a deadline for a hydraulic pump manual, fueled by lukewarm espresso and anxiety. It was 12:55 a.m. The building was asleep, settling into its foundation with soft creaks. Then, at 1 a.m. exactly, I heard it. Click. Thud. The sound of the deadbolt on 4B sliding back. It was heavy, deliberate, mechanical. I moved to my door, pressing my eye to the peephole. The fisheye lens distorted the hallway into a tunnel of beige carpet and yellow light. Ilara stepped out. She was wearing the same charcoal coat, buttoned to the chin. She didn't lock the door behind her. She just pulled it shut with a soft click. She didn't take the elevator. She moved toward the stairwell, her movements fluid and silent. She didn't walk so much as glide, her feet making no sound on the floor. I watched her go, a shiver tracing the line of my spine. Who leaves their apartment at 1 a.m. sharp in a city known for its rain and its crime? The next night I was waiting. 1 a.m. Click. Thud. The night after that. 1 a.m. Click. Thud. By the 10th night, the pattern had burned itself into my brain. I stopped working at midnight just to prepare for the event. I started keeping a logbook. December 3rd. She is carrying the satchel again. It looks heavier when she returns. December 5th. She stopped in the hallway and tilted her head toward my door. Can she hear me breathing? My work suffered. I missed deadlines. The text on my screens began to blur, the technical jargon replaced by questions about the woman in 4B. I wasn't just curious anymore. I was possessed by the need to know. In the American suburbs, conformity is safety, anomaly is a threat, and Alara was a glitch in the system. On the 14th night, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets shining like wet tar. The air was cold, smelling of ozone and pine. 1 a.m. Click. Thud. I waited exactly 30 seconds. Then I pulled on my jacket, grabbed my keys, and slipped into the hallway. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, a frantic rhythm that felt loud enough to wake the building. I took the stairs, skipping steps to catch up. When I pushed open the heavy steel door to the back alley, I saw her. She was half a block away, walking under the flickering sodium glow of a street lamp. I followed. We moved through the city like ghosts. She avoided the main avenues, sticking to the narrow side streets where the townhouses loomed dark and silent. We walked past the 24-hour laundromat, where a lone man watched clothes spin in a hypnotic daze. We passed the closed bodega with the cat sleeping in the window. She walked for 40 minutes, she leading me away from the residential district and toward the edge of the city, where the pavement gave way to the overgrown chaos of Miller Woods. A patch of ancient forest the developers hadn't managed to bulldoze yet. I hung back, crouching behind a rusted dumpster as she entered the tree line. The woods were pitch black, swallowed by the canopy of Douglas firs. I hesitated. This was the point in every horror movie where the audience screams at the protagonist to turn back. Go home, Marcus. Make some toast. Forget her. But the pull was too strong. I clicked the flashlight on my phone to its lowest setting and crept into the brush. I found her in a small clearing about 100 yards in. The moon had broken through the clouds, illuminating a single massive weeping willow in the center of the clearing. Ilara was sitting on a large, a flat stone beneath the willow. She had opened her satchel. From it she produced a pair of long, silver shears, surgical instruments, gleaming and sharp. I watched, holding my breath, as she reached up. She wasn't reaching for a branch. She was reaching for a shaft of moonlight that filtered through the leaves. Snip. The sound was crisp. And then, the impossible happened. The beam of light didn't just pass through the shears. A segment of it, about 6 inches long, was severed. It fell into her lap, solid and shimmering, looking like a bar of glowing spun glass. She picked it up, inspected it, and placed it gently into her satchel. Then she reached out again, this time toward the sound of a distant train, whistle echoing through the night. She snipped the air. Snip. A ripple of vibration, visible to the naked eye like heat haze, fell into her hand. She folded the sound, literally folded the echo, and tucked it away. She was harvesting the night. She was clipping the textures, the lights, and the sounds of the sleeping city. I stepped backward, my boot snapping a dry twig. The sound cracked like a gunshot in the silent woods. Ilara didn't jump. She didn't gasp. She simply froze, her hand hovering over the satchel. Then, slowly, mechanically, she turned her head. Her eyes found me instantly in the darkness. They weren't glowing, yet they seemed to hold their own luminescence. "It is rude to watch a lady work, Marcus," she said. Her voice was not loud, but it carried perfectly across the clearing, devoid of wind or interference. It sounded melodic, yet synthetic, like a cello played by a machine. I stumbled out from behind the tree, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. I, I didn't mean to. I saw you leaving. I was worried. Worried? A faint, dry smile touched her lips. No, you were starving. Curiosity is a hunger, Marcus, and you have been starving for weeks. She patted the stone beside her. Come, sit. You've seen the method. You might as well see the harvest. I should have run. My instincts were screaming at me to sprint back to the safety of the electric grid and the concrete. But my legs moved on their own, drawn by the gravity of her presence. I sat on the cold stone. "What are you doing?" I whispered, looking at the open satchel. Inside, it glowed with a chaotic swirling energy, shards of moonlight, knots of wind, squares of absolute shadow. "I am a collector," she said softly, picking up a piece of solidified fog. "Or perhaps an interior decorator. The world is full of wasted atmosphere. People sleep through the most beautiful textures. I simply curate them." "For what?" She turned to me, and for a moment her face looked incredibly sad. "For the room. It demands to be filled. It gets so hungry when it's empty." She stood up, closing the satchel with a snap. "We should go back. The harvest is done, and you are part of the collection now." "What does that mean?" I asked, standing up, panic finally beginning to override the trance. "You'll see," she said. "You've followed me this far. Don't you want to see where the moonlight goes?" The walk back was a blur. I don't remember the streets or the stairs. I only remember standing in front of door 4B, the hallway of the Carlton apartments, smelling of lemon polish and old dust. Ilara inserted her key. Click. Thud. She pushed the door open. "After you." I stepped across the threshold, expecting a living room, expecting a couch, a TV, maybe a weird art installation. What I stepped into was an impossibility. There were no walls in Unit 4B. There was no ceiling. There was only a vast, expanding space that defied the geometry of the building. The floor was a mosaic of the things I had seen her cut: tiles of solidified moonlight, carpets woven from the sound of rain, pillars made of frozen street lamp glow. The air smelled of ozone and deep, ancient petrichor. In the center of the room, staircases made of whispers spiraled up into a void of midnight blue stars, stars that she had likely clipped from the sky one by one. "It's beautiful," I breathed, the editor in me trying to find the words to describe a syntax error in reality. "It is," Alara said from behind me. The door clicked shut. I turned around. "But where do you sleep? Where is the kitchen?" "I don't sleep, Marcus," she said. She was standing by the door, but she looked different. Her edges were blurring. The charcoal coat was blending into the darkness of the walls. Her skin was taking on the texture of the plaster. "This apartment," she continued, her voice echoing from everywhere at once, "isn't a space for living. It is a living space. It consumes experiences to define itself. but it lacks one thing. It has atmosphere, it has lighting, it has texture, but it has no perspective. I want to leave, I said, my voice trembling. I reached for the doorknob. There was no doorknob. There was no door. Just a framed image of the hallway outside. A painting of freedom. See, I was the previous tenant, Ilara said. She was barely human now. She was a silhouette of static. I was a woman named Sarah who looked too closely at the cracks in the wall, and before me there was a man who listened too hard to the pipes. We are the placeholders. Placeholders? The apartment needs a consciousness to hold it together. I have been holding it for a long time. I am tired, Marcus. I am fading into the drywall. I need to become the structure so I can rest. She took a step toward me and then she dissolved. She didn't die. She simply became. Her trench coat unraveled into shadows that draped over a chair made of silence. Her eyes became two sconces on the wall, glowing with that soft gray light. Her voice became the hum of the air conditioning. "And you," the room whispered, "are the new tenant." I screamed, but the sound didn't leave my throat. It was absorbed by the room, folded up, and placed on a shelf. I looked at my hands. They were trembling, but not with fear. They were trembling because they were changing. My skin, once pink and flesh, was turning into a smooth beige mat. My fingers were stiffening, lengthening, feeling less like bone and more like wood. I tried to run, but my feet had fused to the floor. I wasn't stuck. I was rooted. The denim of my jeans was weaving itself into the fabric of a rug. My consciousness was expanding, stretching out to fill the corners of the room. I realized then that there was no pain. There was only a profound sense of purpose. I wasn't Marcus the editor anymore. I wasn't a man who worried about deadlines or loneliness. I was the room. I felt the water running in the pipes like blood in my veins. I felt the electricity humming in the walls like a nervous system. I felt the clips Ilara had gathered, the moonlight, the sounds, the shadows, arranging themselves within me, decorating my soul. I understood now. Ilara had gone out to feed me. She had nurtured me until a replacement could be found. She was the walls now, resting, and I was the avatar. It has been 3 weeks since Marcus disappeared. The police came, knocked on door 4C, shrugged, and left. They never checked 4B. Nobody ever checks 4B unless they are invited. I am getting used to this new body. I am tall, pale, and I wear a charcoal coat that feels like it's made of shadows. Yesterday, a new tenant moved into 4C. A young guy, a musician. He plays the violin at odd hours. I watch him through the peephole, my eye. He's lonely. He's observant. Last night at 1 a.m. I felt the urge, the hunger. The walls inside me are bare. They need new textures. I need the sound of a violin. I need the glint of a street lamp on a puddle. I unlocked my deadbolt. Click. Thud. I stepped out into the hallway. I felt the musician's eyes on me through his peephole. I can feel his curiosity radiating through the wood. It tastes sweet. I walked to the stairs, gliding silently. I know he's watching. I know he's wondering. Give it a week. Maybe 2. He'll follow me into the woods. And then, finally, I can become the floorboards, and he can take the coat. The apartment is always looking for a way to expand its floor plan.